Hello there, YouTubers, and my fellow viewers and beloved patrons. It's the the 18th of April, year 2025. Both at Australian Eastern Standard Time / Sydney time and local Beijing time. Yes, it kind of, greatly surprised me to sit here, to be able to sit here again and filming another video so soon after my previous one. All things considered, and blah blah blah. And yes, I was also able to take a rather quick shower after fairly properly brushed my teeth, and following the act of dumping some feces / defecations, and yeah, after I kind of lingered in bed, doom scrolling on, well, not exactly doom scrolling on YouTube, but yes, I did spend a great deal of time trying to recover and regain some strength and focus while I watched some more YouTube videos, blah blah blah, just trying to keep my mind occupied. And yeah, but I will spare you the details as to what sort of what kinds of videos I tend to watch on YouTube. But you should be able to find out fairly easily by by scrolling down to the homepage of my channel and see for yourselves. So I would like to spare you the details so that this the length of this filming session does not exceed, say, for 40 or 45 minutes, unlike last time. Yeah, so basically in this video I would like to specify and elaborate more on why I haven't reconciled to that wicked woman / my alleged birth mother, allegedly speaking, since I can't verify the claim or the theory that she popped me out or gave birth to me. Hence, I'm here and suffering from a great deal and shitloads of tribulations and trials. Though yes, I do not actually mainly make this video to to fish for or look for sympathy, although yes, I kind of more or less plan to gather more supporters due to the one of the most fundamental human emotions, including but are not limited to sympathy and apathy, and blah blah blah. Yes, so basically it poses a significant amount of challenge and complications to try to negotiate with that woman, that wicked woman who never ceases to persecute me and wishes me ill and harm. Ever since, you know, developed self-awareness, or I should say self-consciousness, as far as I recall, which occurred at the age of maybe 4 years old or five. I can't really know for sure, since it occurred quite a couple of decades ago, and you will have to, unfortunately, excuse, forgive my poor memory and my inability to retrieve and recollect what actually happened during my early childhood, and the full picture, since there were you know a lot more participants or parties involved than just um, you know that wicked woman and I, so, and you get the idea. It happened long time ago, and even I myself, while fully assuming I haven't lost my fully functioning cognitive abilities as a result of my existing symptoms and mental conditions of severe depression and anxiety and OCDs. Though I've been trying extremely hard not to let them define who and who I am. Basically, I tried at least one, two, three, maybe 4 times, as far as I can recall, to de-escalate and resolve the situation and the disputes. But unfortunately and apparently, she basically aims to transfer all the legal liabilities, plus allegedly some debt occurred or incurred due to her own um, misuse and abuse of my old man's um, company, which I'm still not sure whether it's still legally exists or not, though based on the responses, though not so um, promising and refreshing, I received from my from the Japanese embassy, um, as a result of my application, to pay Japan another visit, for mainly for business purposes, though I do not, you know, well, truth be told, I do not deny that yes, I did intend, to look for some fun, to have some fun, to unwind a little bit there, and yeah, though yes, but still yes, unfortunately, I got cancelled, well, by Japan for the second time. Well, if you take the previous occasion of me getting cancelled into account, though not by not legal wise, but in terms of business and employment, yes, I attempted basically to set up a page on one of one of the main mainstream social me ja- Japanese social media there, just to gather and develop some more leads and in turn more clients and blah blah blah. Yeah, but yes, that occurred also well, you may call it quite some ancient history, though it still kind of remains kind of raw and fresh in my own memory. Um, but yeah, though yes, I do not really hold that much of grudge against them. So yeah, I do kind of relate to why I got cancelled and blah blah blah. Yeah, though yes, which also in turn might just necessitate um, that I vi visit um, for the oh my god. I sincerely and humbly beg your pardon and kind understanding. Yes, somehow the webcam, the USB, the newly purchased webcam somehow got disconnected automatically, or I don't know, maybe somehow I touched its socket or cable by accident. I don't know, but yeah, or somehow gravity pulled away the one of its sockets, or blah blah blah. But yeah, back to the main to topic of this video. Yes, basically, I suppose that wicked woman intends to control and manipulate me, to her unfair advantage. And yes, she has been a rather mean and probably psychotic um, woman, and you know and probably also highly not narcissistic, since she rarely rarely very very rarely um, admits to her faults and mistakes, and I doubt if she hardly ever um, you, self introspect and examines her own actions and words and speech. Yeah, I hope I am making sense here. And but basically, after my old man kicked his bucket back in mid-year 2019, she just kept spreading rumors about my old man claiming that he owed a large deal, a great a large deal of debt as a result of his um, you know um, well misdeeds or misbehaviors in entrepreneurial undertakings and blah 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 and and she kind of deliberately defamed and stigmatized my old man and and she kept harassing my aunts, my uncles, and several of my cousins. While two of them I generally refer to as my adopted siblings, since yes we are rather close, or I should say at least kind of close and friendly, relatively speaking, friendly to one another. I do my best, to keep the peace, to maintain and manage, the status, relatively speaking, friendly vibe and the status quo by giving each other space. Yes, and yes, that's pertaining to my adopted siblings and I. Yes, but unfortunately, regarding that wicked woman, she just never stops tempting me into not just never stops beg your pardon, tempting me, but also other people and parties involved into violence and blah blah blah. Thankfully, most, if not all of us, I mean, the ones that oppose her, her that oppose, what she tends to do in order to, for her own gain, for her own gain. So yes, we managed, at least so far, to keep things relatively, peaceful and civil. Though yes, I did at least, once got my head, you know, bombarded and hit by my grandpa. Though yes, I kind of, I have kind of forgiven him, since he was also deceived and manipulated by that wicked woman into believing that I wronged her, that I somehow abused her. Um, though yes, all I am doing here, is basically for the sake of self defense. I did not on one single occasion take the initiative to attack or harass her. I mean that wicked woman. Not even once. Though yes, there was one time that I consulted with a local solicitor or a lawyer, and I brought him along. Attempted to pay her a visit. I mean, to another residence of my old man's. Another flat. In the eastern. Eastern ring or wing of the city. Though yes, that unfortunately proved unsuccessful, since well, I can't really remember whether I went there and knocked on her door to to double check whether she was there or not. Though yes, I long story short, yes, I was unable, to get in touch with to get to meet her face to face and try to negotiate with the presence of a relatively speaking, qualified third party witness. But unfortunately, yes, here, it's not exactly, the rule of law calls the shot. No, no, not exactly. You have to um, use your, you have to kind of use make full use of your social ties and connections and work your angles to get the most beneficial or favorable outcome to occur to you, or to occur in your favor. Yeah, that sort of thing. But unfortunately, here in China, it doesn't really work. The way things doesn't tend to work or operate the way you guys I mean I whom I assume to have come from and reside in the Western world, say at least the first world, the first um aka countries, regions, and states or nations pertaining to the Western Hemisphere and the largely the Anglo sphere. Yeah, but yeah. Um, so long story short, I am basically stranded, and the circumstance has remained pretty much a 100% stalemate about nearly 6 years ago. Well, since if you count, if you start counting from August, I believe to be, yes, August 19th, year 2000 and year 2019, yes, somewhere around that date, to the present moment. Then yes, it's been nearly 6 years, and there are pretty much there have been there has been pretty much no progress being made between both parties. I have blocked her, on all platforms and ceased all communications. Though yes, there were yes, another occasion, yes, with yeah, while being accompanied, yes, by my adopted mom and my adopted old man slash one of my aunts and uncles, and we met, at my grandpa's residence and tried to trying to negotiate, by attempting to reach a common ground and mutual to try to come up with a mutually beneficial arrangement. But unfortunately, she just refuses, to to budge to, you know, to even, to accept, not one single term, I outlined. I will spare you guys the details, but yeah, it's just, ever since my old man kicked his bucket, all hell started to break loose, and I pretty much lost full. I pretty much lost control of my mind, and though not necessarily my emotions, as you can see, yes, sometimes I just can't help but begin to stutter. Though yes, there were some occasions, in which I can somehow manage to stutter less, if not stutter at all. But yeah, so so yeah, she just intermittently, not exactly regularly, but yes, on in during recent times, she does kind of comes to knock on my doors, and harass me and persecutes me fairly regularly, though in a intermittent and unpredictable manner. You know, maybe she might force her entry. Yes, though yes, the laws here seems rather vague as to whether it is lawful or unlawful for her to force her entry. Since I am one of the only legal occupants of this flat. So I suppose she kind of has to gain my written consent or approval in order to enter, though she just keeps um pushing her luck, by doing the same thing, the pretty much the exactly the same shenanigan over and over. So yes, which I certainly believe counts as insanity, at least to some extent. Though fortunately she isn't here for today. Though I can't, be 100% sure whether she might just, pop out and wildly respawn or reappear again later on. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's just it's kept me quite on edge, and quite impossible for me to relocate, since yes, I did relocate, like I said, to to somewhere else, though not outside China. Yes, still yes, though yes, like I said, back in late 2019 to the first half of year 2020. Yes, I pretty much went or I should say became pretty much homeless and in a state of exile, bumping from one hotel to another during the COVID lockdown, and and as a result of being too afraid, to return here. So that taught me, that left me a huge amount of trauma and taught me a lesson, not to leave this flat so lightly, so casually. Yeah. So yes, which makes me way too careful, overly um, prudent in planning and taking actual actions in terms of planning my next moves, say to another country or state or region, say for example to Thailand. Though yes, before or I should say during my previous application to pay Japan another visit, yes, I did kind of made myself fully prepared to to relocate to Japan for several months, not just for business, but also shield myself from this shitstorm, from 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 this stalemate. And yes, you can also say that yes, I have been planning my escape though fairly prudently and with all my might and strength. Though with my current shitty and precarious circumstance, I imagine I stand so little chance of actually escaping from it, and with all the signs and implicit evidence based solely on my own observations and interpretations, it feels as if God, you know even God Himself does all His power to stop me, to prevent me from leaving this place in one, and then come back, after some time in one piece, a better man, a happier man, you know. Since I failed my previous attempt to escape, or I should say, I failed actually twice to escape, and my first attempt, though, yes, I managed to to stay away from this, not exactly house or flat of torment, though yeah, it ended up in me getting becoming a total wreck, severely depressed and anxious, not even able to to sleep, but at least recently I didn't quite I haven't really lost much sleep. Yes, at least I am still able to fall asleep at night, at least on some occasions without having to ingest the anti-anxiety pills here. I'll show you here the one of the yes one of the medications that I unfortunately sometimes have to take in order to alleviate the huge anxiety and slash panic. Yeah, but yeah, now I'm just all alone, though yes, sometimes, quite occasionally, my adopted mom or my adopted old man slash one of my uncles comes here to send me some fruit, to deliver me some fruits and help clean the flat and blah blah blah. Though I have learned at least I bought my own equipment to mop the floor, and I've learned to clean the room completely on my own. Though there are still some areas which I find quite either too hard or too tricky, too treacherous to clean on my own, or too tricky or hard to clean on my own efficiently or adequately. Say for example, the toilet, yes. Though yes, I can clean largely the surface, though not exactly the actual shithole, blah blah blah. But yeah, but yeah, back to what I mainly aim to specify and elaborate. Yeah, so basically I'm still stuck, stranded in this, circumstance of total, utter stalemate. Though I know, I know exactly what I should be doing, what I must be doing in order to, in order to, make breakthroughs. I feel utterly powerless and helpless because of my current mental health condition and financial savings. You know, it's getting quite de- desperate and um, I even with taking antidepressant, um, even with the restart, or I should say relapse of having to ingest my antidepressant and the successful attempt to procure, antidepressant completely on my own, it still, spells some, some, something, something like a rather hollow, victory, since it doesn't make a radical difference by vastly improving my situation overall. So yeah, I just don't know what else to do other than holding on while in the meantime trying to make more money, trying to say force myself into the 9 to 5 grind, though not in China, but in, say, in a first world country, say Switzerland or Belgium, and maybe, just maybe, get myself euthanized there sometime when I feel ready. But nowadays, even God, even God Himself seems so against me. Or just stacks up so against me. The hopes that I have, the current faint, or I should say trace amount of hope that remains are just a handful sources of income I can make online, throughout the global internet, and back from Australia. So yeah, and I pretty much got no friends here in China, and I don't even have anyone whom I can call my friends, not much less close friends or intimate intimate friends back in Australia, since you know I haven't been back in Australia, and I doubt if I could ever um you know go back to Australia one day or someday in the far distant future, blah blah blah. um you know I have I I feel out of touch from the outside world, even from my own self identity, more than ever. You know, I just don't want to. I just don't want to you know get stranded here. You know, until I take my last breath and die. With hate and bitterness full in my veins, like this. Yes, yes. Maybe you can feel free to to scroll down and go back to my previous videos. I believe I have said something highly similar, if not completely identical, in the past, in my previous, at least in one of my previous videos. Yeah, but I just don't know, you know, guys. I just have, I beg your pardon, but I believe I have pretty much, reached my breaking point. So yeah, no friends, no family, so little money. Probably just just enough, for me to live, to survive in Bangkok, maybe for a month or two. Then I'll have to come come back here. Maybe just a month or two in Japan as well, but that's it. So yeah, no matter how hard I try to work on improving myself, both financial wise and physique wise, and in terms of my physical strength and health, no matter how hard I try, the reality just won't seem to budge, won't seem to to back down. So does never her incessant, her non-stop persecutions and harassments. I just don't know what else to do. And with my already severely compromised mental health, though not so physically. I won't say that I have a broken body. Well, aside from say some hemorrhoids, and maybe I suppose I suffer from time to time chronic. Well, based on my own self diagnosis, maybe chronic self fatigue syndrome, which I suppose as one more reason, if not excuse, to to refuse to join, to refuse to participate in the 9 to 5 grind. Yeah, and yes, I myself, deep in my heart, um, you know, don't believe that I fit my own my own character and personality traits suit the conventional 9 to 5 grind. Yeah, I just find nowhere else to go, and no other way to make breakthroughs, but to but maintaining my status quo, and in the meantime, trying to get back on my feet, and I just don't know, what else I can do to resolve the situation, to make myself less suicidal, and put my life back on track. Yeah, so yeah, I believe, yes, I have talked enough. I have wasted enough of your of of you guys' time out there, and so yeah, to conclude this filming session, thank you very much again for watching and being with me to the end, while you hear, while you have been listening to my grievances and rants and vents. Yeah, so let's just hope and pray that eventually I die a painless, swift, and dignified death, if God, Jesus Christ, the Almighty, willing. Amen. So yeah, well, regardless of my sins and wrongdoings. So yeah, thank you again for being with me to the end. I better go now and take care of some more business. So yeah, take care and stay out of trouble. May we all stay out of trouble. Um, well, otherwise, just pray for a painless, swift, and dignified slash decently looking death for us all. Thank you and cheers.